You are now listening to Radio Resistance.
Radio Resistance, Radio Rebel.
Radio Rebel.
Am I Radio Rebel? Or are we all?
Are we all Debbie Ryan? We're both making the face right now. You can't see it. Paris's fatal flaw is his ignorance.
He's so ignorant.
He is self-centered and often unmanly. People don't like Paris. Dewy-eyed is another description. Dewy-eyed.
I don't know about that.
What does that mean? What's dewy-eyed? Like crying?
He's a little bitch.
He's a little bitch boy. Why not just say that?
Crying like a little bitch.
why not say that? Spark Notes.
Yeah, right.
Why not describe him as a little bitch? Having eyes that are moist with tears.
We all know what it is. Having eyes that are moist with tears.
Yeah, like nostalgic, naive, or sentimental.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would like to be those things. I didn't know that was bad.
You're a dewy-eyed guy. Yeah, I can see you.
Uh-huh.
You know, just a light mist coming off.
A little, yeah. I feel like I do just have generally like wet eyes. I don't know what that means.
It's probably good. You know, moisturized. Yeah.
Definitely means something.
Definitely means something. You know, if you were to get like lab chemicals in your eyes, you could blink them out quicker.
Just cry them out beautifully. Single tear.
Cascading down your...
Yeah.
Just acetone coming out.
You'd never find me in the lab. I just have nothing to do there because I'm not really a science guy.
But we are cooking right now.
We're cooking up.
We're cooking it up.
Cooking it up. Cooking it up.
That's our first single. Cooking it up. Cooking it up.
Just the worst foray into music that nobody asked for.
Yeah.
Yum.
This shit's troll music.
What
you know about this? What you know about this under the bridge music?
Yeah.
Our bet is that we're trolls.
Yeah, we live under the bridge.
Answer these riddles, bitch.
Is that what trolls do? Do trolls even do the riddles?
I don't know.
I would like to imagine that we'd be like highly literate trolls under the bridge.
Yeah, but we do also make trap music.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be good.
I think that's it's always an option.
Yeah.
Things go south.
Yeah.
Or if things go north.
Ah.
You know?
Yeah.
Things go up. Well, I guess north.
Yeah. Up, down.
Up, yeah.
Right, center.
Used to be north was down.
Used to be north was down. Whatever happened to that, you guys?
Eurocentrism.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah. Why can't we flip the globe, you know? Why isn't the southern hemisphere on top? Have you ever thought about that? Space
it's all a matter of perspective, really.
All a matter of perspective. You know, on some maps, America is big.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know this. America is actually the size of the UK.
Tiny.
You didn't know that.
Tiny.
You didn't know that, listener.
Really small.
You've been living in this like Eurocentric life.
So, the United States is half the size of Texas.
It's true. It's true. You didn't know
incredible.
That. You didn't.
It's incredible.
We made a little tiny Texas to go inside
you can
of
fit
the United
three
States.
United States inside of Texas.
Texas has never been a part of the continental U.S.
No.
It's floating in the ocean like Hawaii.
Yeah.
But no one's told you that because you haven't gotten
It's
education.
international.
It's international. It's worldwide.
It's global. It's a global movement.
Texas is a global enterprise, baby.
It's actually an LLC.
Texas Corp.
Big Texas.
Big Texas. Big Tex.
Everything's better. Everything's bigger, better in Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas. Everything is tropical. We're an island.
It's true.
We're
an island nation.
We're an island. The proud island nation of Texas.
Much like the city-states of ancient Greece.
Oh, yeah.
We found it.
Yeah.
Found that transition.
That's good.
We're just two buddies discussing fantasy. Oh God, it's Sorta Sorcery.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sorta Sorcery.
Wrath, sing goddess of the ruinous wrath of the Sorta Sorcery podcast. First line of the Iliad.
There it is.
Right there.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Couldn't have said it better if I was Homer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No Homer, I hardly even know her.
No Homer.
Welcome back.
I had to say it twice because you didn't appreciate it the first time.
Well, now that we've undercut all seriousness, now that we've really gotten down to brass tacks.
Bronze tacks.
Yeah.
Late Bronze Age collapse. Am I right, guys?
Am I right, guys? What's microform B or something? There's some name for the language.
Yeah.
That could have been really funny.
Yeah.
Could have been really good.
Microform
Only I paid attention in class.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But we're here on this beautiful day. 1,000 years, 2,000 years actually after the death of Christ, to talk
That's
about
what the summary said.
Troy.
It's really funny.
Troy, 2004. Is it Sorta Sorcery? Yeah, it's Sorta Sorcery.
Yeah, it's sorta. Yeah. And we'll
Sorta
talk about
then.
it. We'll get into it, you know.
This one, I'm really not. Normally, I'm an unbiased observer,
Mm.
and you can trust my opinion and my impartiality.
Much like Uatu, the Watcher.
Much like Uatu. I often compare myself to Uatu the
He has
Watcher.
a big old head.
I'm mostly head.
wearing
mostly
robes. Yeah.
Bald as hell.
All head.
All head, no, tiny legs.
Yeah.
Tiny little legs.
Uh-huh.
I watched this movie a lot growing up.
Yeah.
I know you're thinking, isn't this a just R-rated film with like sex and violence?
Doesn't that tell you everything you know about this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raised on this stuff, and I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it as a child. And here's what's going to be interesting. I feel like me and Chase have different perspectives on this movie
Oh yeah.
because in high school, there's a divide, a national divide here in the United States.
Uh-huh.
You either read the Iliad or you read the Odyssey. There are only two kinds of people in this world.
Yeah, and
people who
baby-
read the Iliad and the Odyssey.
And baby, I was ill.
He was ill.
I
He
was
was
ill
sick,
as hell.
nasty. I was Odyssey.
Yeah.
I
He's
was
a bit
Odyssey.
odd. He's a bit odd.
A bit of a quirk, oddball kind of guy.
Perks of being an Odyssey reader.
Yeah,
That was the
that's
book
good.
about his childhood.
The Odd Flower. I liked the Odyssey okay. I wouldn't say I was really moved to any kind of emotion by it.
Sure.
I was also 16, so
Didn't really get.
it was kind of
Yeah.
the finer notes really escaped me. But so my exposure to the Iliad
Mhm.
is the 2004 movie Troy
Mhm.
with Brad Pitt, Orlando Bloom, Diane Kruger.
I
So
will say-
that's my main exposure. So when it's like different
Mhm.
from like the quote unquote original, I
Means
don't
nothing.
it's lost on me. Lost on me.
I will say, just on like a genre level, something that is interesting, like something they get talked about with like the difference between the Odyssey and the Iliad. The Odyssey is often compared more to like the kind of like chivalric romance stories. Like it's
Yeah.
very based on like emotions and like the specific relationship between like one man and like one woman, being like Odysseus and what was Penelope?
Yeah, his lovely
His
wife,
lovely
probably
wife.
named Penelope,
His comely wife. That's they use whatever.
who he definitely cheats on.
And hey, why wouldn't he?
Hey, he was like under
Lost
magic
at sea
spells or
and-
something.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
A tale as old as time. Am I right, ladies? But like, yeah. Whereas, like the chivalric stories that like are inspired by the Odyssey, then go to turn into like the heroic fantasy.
Yeah.
We know now, like the Conan, like all that stuff, all that stuff.
All that junk.
But yeah, like John Carter, like the like kind of heroic fantasy boom of like the early 20th century. Like the Iliad goes on to like more
Lord of the
inspire,
Rings.
yeah, like Lord of the Rings, epic fantasy, literally like epic versus romantic.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's interesting now to like talk about an epic in the context of like a sword and sorcery podcast, which
Yeah,
is generally
yeah.
More concerned with the romantic.
Well, yeah, I was thinking
yeah.
about that in the shower this morning.
Nice.
So I often
Thinking
do.
about
I was
romance.
thinking about Brad Pitt in the shower
Thinking
this
about
morning.
epic romances with Brad Pitt.
And I was wondering about this, putative,
Yeah.
should I say, dichotomy between epic and heroic fantasy.
Mhm.
Because this, your impulse is to say that Troy is an epic fantasy story
Mhm.
because it's like there's large-scale conflict, lots of people involved, big national stakes.
Right.
But at the same time, the story itself, like the themes, are so focused on like the individual
Yeah.
characters, the heroes, like Achilles, Hector, Paris. Like they are what drives the plot more so than like the global conflict.
That's definitely true. Yeah. I fully agree with that. I think this movie is kind of a project in like creating a synthesis between those two like things. It's like where you see like epics like we've talked about previously in the podcast, like the epic of like Siegfried, like that saga. Like it's very focused on like tracing back like lineages and like creating a national origin. Like that's the main enterprise of an epic. Whereas like telling this story now, it's like the audience of like 2004, mostly Americans, like the kinds of like name drop epic storytelling like it's done like the Iliad, where like you mention a guy and like go back to his whole lineage and stuff.
Yeah, you got to
It's
explore
not
his backstory.
really going to have the same effect. So you kind of have to make the Iliad into like a more romantic kind of story where like it will have like the same kinds of like like romance. It's like easy to grab onto,
Yeah.
like regardless of time period and like culture and origin, in a way that like an epic doesn't usually do the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. And it is sort of a product of its time in terms of 2004.
Yeah.
We're moving into like this postmodern era of storytelling where there's, in some respects, a diminished focus on like romanticism, like the enchanted world. But what I'd like about this movie a lot is I feel like if I were to describe this movie generally and like what it's trying to do, it really seems more like an expression of the human experience than an emphasis on either, well, this is like about the political maneuverings of like ancient Greek life or something like that, or it's purely about like the enchanted, heroic, like mythic journey of Achilles, because it's just about, it has everything in it. That's why I love this movie.
Yeah.
It has love, it has hatred, it has revenge, it has like courage, it has cowardice, fear of death, like the lust for immortality. But then it also has these elements of like greed, which materializes as like this sort of geopolitical maneuverings where like Agamemnon's trying to unite all of Greece and he wants to take over Troy. And it's not just that he wants wealth or power, but those like very material gains that he sees as like essential to growing the empire or whatever are tied to this like personal sense of immortality.
Yeah.
That he wants, he's like, he hates Troy. He wants to destroy it. It's not just about like, oh, well, there's oil there, blah, 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 blah. You know, U.S. imperialism, boring stuff. It's like one man's like quest to make himself like larger than life. And I think it's really great how it's kind of fused in this film where there isn't just an emphasis on like, oh, well, it's so like pie in the sky, like love and passion and death in that sort of romantic sense. But it's also very like true to the cruelty and like the grittiness of war and the motivations that are much less romantic that we do see throughout history.
Yeah, and that like is a big theme of the film that we can talk about, you know, like a bit more after we talk about, like, you know, the kind of like nitty gritty stuff of the movie. But like, yeah, the theme of like the role that mortals play on the earth versus like that of like the gods.
Yeah.
Like the temporality of human life is what gives it beauty. Like I think that's like almost that's what
Achilles
says
has a
to Briseis.
whole speech about that.
Yeah. And like I think that just really comes through when you're seeing this film, like both through like the action and through the romance. And like the action especially is something that we can get into with like the making of this film, which they put just insane amounts of effort into this that like you just would not have seen.
No,
in, like,
you don't always see
any of the other movies we talked about.
And you know, it's kind of a meta digression about filmmaking. A lot of people now are talking about how hard it is to make good high budget films. So in you know, the year of our Lord 2024, in the past like 20 years especially.
Hey, way to date the podcast, you know. Maybe this was
this
filmed,
could be
2030. I don't know.
the year 2000. You never know.
Yeah.
Year 3000.
Year 3000. Yeah, and year 3000 and late. Listener.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That also dates us, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, the Black Eyed Peas reference.
That's really telling.
Yeah.
It's really telling. But indie movies are in right now, in the time we're in. Like low budget indie films are doing really well, both at the box office and like in terms of critical acclaim. Because it just seems like with this pivot to CGI and like the expenses of making a movie now, they're so high. So you can have movies where you spend like hundreds of millions of dollars and then you have a product that just kind of sucks in comparison to like what you could make for a tenth of that price. And it just seems like right now we're not getting a lot of like good big blockbuster like high budget films.
Yeah.
And people like they don't really know what to do with these insane budgets because kind of like the paradigm is like, well, I'm going to sink like half of this into AI, CGI.
Yeah.
The other half's going to The Rock. He needs $12 million.
Yeah, and this will be a good movie, to compare to the last one.
It's very similar to Hercules.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this movie does it right. Does like big blockbusters right. And it's so great to come off of Hercules 2014 and talk about this film because we're going to explore so many of the same themes in just objectively better ways. The execution, just strictly better in almost every respect. I mean, in terms of how the movie is made, it's just better. Choreography's better, dialogue's better,
The Rock's
shooting's better. The Rock's Rock's not in it. The Rock is not playing himself in this film.
Yeah. There are rocks,
there's
but
plenty
they don't
of
really
rocks.
say much. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a similar level of acting, I think. The Rocks really do play their part in this film.
That's good. That's good.
But it's just great. It's just a well-made film, and it explores the similar themes about like a humanist past where it's kind of ambiguous, like do the gods exist, do the gods not exist? Different characters have different perspectives on the enchanted nature of the world.
Which is very different.
Which is very
the
different.
Iliad. Like, yeah.
Which is very different, right? And it's very new and it's different, but I think it's cool. I think it's good. And, we get some of that early on in this film, jumping into the plot.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, we kind of know the story is like,
We get it.
we get the Iliad.
We get it.
So I'm going to be really focusing on the parts I like.
Yeah.
Which is
Hell yeah.
something I get to do because,
Good movie.
we run the podcast.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
talk about whatever we want. 32,000 years ago. 2,000 years before Christ. We keep referencing that because in the description for this on Amazon Prime. Yeah.
Set 1,000 years for the time of Christ.
Just why would you talk about
Don't bring him into this.
very famous ancient Greek myth
Get him out of
by
this.
saying 1,000? I don't know.
Get Jesus out of here, man.
We don't need to talk about Jesus.
I feel like
Context
Jesus
of
wouldn't
this
like the
film.
stuff that's happening here.
No, he wouldn't like this movie.
Yeah.
He wouldn't like it at all. But I love it.
None of this is in the Bible.
That ain't Christ-like.
That ain't Christ-like.
That ain't Christ-like. The least Christ-like figure in this movie, Agamemnon,
Yeah.
so we open on.
Yeah.
He is going to war with some like Greek city-states. And there's just so many good one-liners in this movie. I didn't write them all down. I wrote down probably a third of the best ones.
If you wrote them all down, it would take the entire
I would just be
runtime of the
reading them all.
podcast.
Yeah, for the
exactly.
next 40 minutes.
The dialogue's amazing. I like the dialogue.
It's
a
so
lot.
good. Well, because you have everything you need to know about Agamemnon told to you right at the start. Because he's talking to one of his generals, right? These two armies are facing off. And he just goes, yeah, it's a good day for the crows. It's like, oh, you bastard. You bastard.
dick.
You know everything you need to know about
Just
this
does
guy.
not care about the sanctity of life.
Doesn't care. Just a warmonger.
Yeah.
Just an evil tyrant. Very irreverent guy, generally, for human life. All that stuff. Who cares about human life, really?
Yeah, fuck it.
And in a movie like this, except there's only one way to resolve the conflict between these two armies without clashing and costing thousands of lives. It's a good old one-on-one, champion-on-champion battle.
That's a classic. That's a classic of the, of antiquity.
Yeah, that is. Well, because it's just something about it is so cool. It's like, our best guy, your best guy, and we'll decide it like that. And their best guy, Boagrius, giant guy, big guy, real David and Goliath type situation, except in this case, David is not like a scrawny,
He's
boy.
He's buff. He's big. Yeah.
He's Brad Pitt. So, yeah, okay, they have Boagrius. We're bringing out Achilles.
Yeah.
Achilles. Hello? Where's Achilles? He's not there. He's not there. He's sleeping at home. So a boy is sent to go get Achilles so he can go fight Boagrius.
Yeah.
And this is where we learn everything we need to know about Achilles. He's just like sleeping. He's in bed with some woman.
He's Brad Pitt. He's womanizing.
He rolls out of bed lazily.
Yeah.
And the kid's like, "Hey, so we need you on the field to fight this guy." He's kind of grumbling about it. Whatever.
I have to get back to these women that I'm with, and Achilles was definitely with in the myth.
Yeah, right. He was only heterosexual. Definitely nothing else going on.
Yeah.
2004, guys.
It was a different
cut
time.
us some slack.
It was a different time.
But eventually, this boy gets Achilles to go, and this is where Achilles delivers the line that really describes his whole deal very well in this movie to the boy, because he's talking to the boy. The kid's like, he's the biggest man I've ever seen. I wouldn't want to fight him.
That's what the boy sounds like.
That's what the boy sounds
That was
like.
good. That was a good impression.
Achilles, looks at this young whippersnapper. He goes, "Oh, well,
Insane.
that's why no one will remember your name."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
And he says it so calmly, but it's so well acted because you can tell there's it's just to him that's just a casual thing. It's like he's just saying it matter of fact. Yeah. No one's gonna remember your name.
That's why no one's. That's why you're irrelevant. And so that's going to be Achilles' deal for this movie is achieving immortality through glory.
Yeah.
And people will remember his name. I'll bet you that after what he does to Boagrius in the next scene.
Oh yeah.
just absolutely runs up on him.
I remember that.
Stabs him right in the neck.
Yeah.
Jump. He has like this jump shot he loves to do.
It's crazy.
Where he leaps in the air and he stabs down at you.
You've probably seen like an Instagram reel of this, like put over like the Sigma male TikTok music, and it's just like Brad Pitt walking around, then he hits a guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool.
Well, and what I like about it is the choreography is done so well in this movie. So like Hercules 2014, right? When The Rock hits someone with like his mallet or whatever, and the guy goes flying back. You're asking yourself serious questions about like the worlds of the movie. Like, oh well,
did
is
gravity
this guy a
stop
superhuman?
for that moment?
Like, is he a demigod or is he The Rock? And in this movie,
not
you look
mutually
at him
exclusive,
fighting.
those two things.
Not mutually exclusive. I mean, he could be. Like, is he The Rock or is he Hercules? That's really the question. Is he 2014 Hercules or is he The Rock? But the choreography is so good that I feel like they really do make it seem as though Achilles could just be an incredibly good fighter. Like the way he moves, how cut he is.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe he's not divine in some respects. Maybe he wasn't dipped in the river of whatever.
Right. He's just Achilles with the swift foot, baby.
He's just good like that.
Swift
it's just
foot.
nice.
Swift
foot Achilles. He's light on his feet. Instantly kills Pelagius. It's not even close.
Yeah.
That conflict's over. Cut away. Next scene. Something's happening with Menelaus. Menelaus ruling Sparta, making peace with Troy.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
We love peace. What's my favorite part of peace?
Getting a piece of that action.
Getting a piece of that. Yeah, getting a piece of Menelaus' wife. Helen.
Yeah.
Helen, formerly of Sparta, soon to be of Troy.
Soon to be Helen of Troy.
Soon to be Helen of Troy.
Dude, when Menelaus marries this woman, and he knows her name is Helen of Troy, he has to know what's going to happen.
He should have thought about that more. He should have thought that whole thing through.
Come on.
Yeah, there's a funny moment where they're like drinking to just finally barely finalizing the peace deal.
It's been a hard-won battle, but we got
right.
there.
Well, it seems like they've been fighting for like centuries or something. Paris makes eye contact with Helen, and you know exactly what is about to happen.
Well, it's Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, should I say Orlando Bloom makes eye contact with Diane Kruger?
Orlando Bloom makes eye contact with any woman, and you know what's going to happen.
You know what's going to happen.
He's a beautiful man.
Yeah, so, they do the nasty, and things cannot go well from here. At this point, it's like point of no return.
They do the nasty, things are going to get nasty. And Hector... Eric Bana is just like looking at all this. He just he sees them like walking off, and
which is so great because it's like you really get the sense of this movie that Hector is Paris's older brother.
Yes,
that he like knows his whole deal. It's like fuck.
Not it.
You look around. You don't see Paris. You don't see the guy's wife.
Yeah.
You know what's happening.
Yeah.
Paris, famous womanizer. For those of you who were unfamiliar with the myth. Always just kind of a guy who was doing shit like this.
Silver-tongued, dewy-eyed.
Dewy-eyed Orlando Bloom. I think the casting was great, by the way,
it's
in this
amazing.
film. I think everyone is just right for their roles.
And like Eric Bana and Orlando Bloom look like brothers is the crazy thing.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They really do, yeah. And they're wearing like some cool stuff. The costuming's also amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah. We
really
could just,
good.
everything about this movie
Everything's
is good.
really good.
Like, I'm good. We don't usually give like this amount of like unrestrained praise, but
Yeah.
like it's great.
It's a really coming
Like,
off
the
of
set
seeing some like
design.
terrible movies.
Yeah, and like so much effort went into like making this movie feel as authentic as possible, and we can talk about like some of the ways in which historical methodology was kind of like a bit off, in certain aspects, but like just when you're watching this film, like the feeling of it is just beautiful.
It's great. And what happens next is kind of what everyone knows happens. Of course, Helen is smuggled out of Sparta.
Yeah.
And to Troy. Menelaus wakes up, empty bed. Perhaps not the first or last time for him, but it is, a slight that cannot go unpunished.
Unslighted.
So he goes to his brother, Agamemnon. So we have a tale of two brothers.
Yeah.
Of two sets of brothers.
Yes.
In this film. Hector and Paris, Agamemnon and Menelaus. And of course, he's like, we need to go get my wife back. I'm upset.
Yeah.
And Agamemnon, all too down to go to war with Troy.
Sacking Troy, you say, but your peace deal. What happened
to your peace deal?
What happened to your peace deal?
Yeah, this man who doesn't give a fuck about peace. He spits on peace.
And, also should say, Agamemnon, played by Brian Cox of Succession.
That's right.
Yeah, Logan Roy, and amazing.
Does really good.
Literally, like he is Agamemnon. Like, it's.
Well, he's. Yeah, I mean, in the dialogue, I feel like, it's not like as explicit as Hercules 2014, where
Yeah.
they just exactly say what like their character thinks or like what the plot is.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can have a character, just say something that is so characteristic of
Yeah.
them that you get what they
Yeah, right. You
are
understand
about without them saying their character traits.
characterization.
I don't know. I feel like this is the first movie that's ever done it.
It's brilliant. It's really brilliant. Characterization through dialogue.
Yeah, if
Who
only
would've thought?
Hercules, which came out 10 years later, could have
done this.
done this. Yeah,
He says, he's talking to Menelaus and his other guy, and he's talking about how he created like this nation out of fire worshippers and snake eaters. It's like, okay, so we see now how this guy thinks about like the superstitious Greeks
yeah.
that he rules over.
The regard he has for his people.
Not high regard. But he is going to go to war. And of course, if we're going to war, and we're bringing all the boys, we're bringing the largest hosts that the world's ever seen.
All the kings, baby.
We need one guy in particular. I think we need Achilles.
But he's a loose cannon.
But he's such a wild card.
He's a wild card. He's a maverick.
And how do we rein in the maverick?
Yeah.
We bring in
Bring
our
our
ringer,
best guy. Oh, yeah.
Odysseus, to recruit him. And Odysseus, played by Sean Bean, does an amazing job.
Perfect.
Just does really good.
Good movie.
Really good movie. I mean, this is like Odysseus at his finest too.
Yeah.
Like he's, talk about a guy who's silver-tongued. He just knows exactly what to say. He's so charming. He's just so logical and has such an amazing way of thinking out these situations.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's going to convince Achilles to go, not because Achilles wants to fight for Agamemnon, but because this is going to be the war to end all wars.
Yeah.
Greatest conflict in the history of conflict.
Never going to be another war after this.
Nope. It's the last one. Last one. And you got to get in now while the getting is good.
Yeah.
You want to be remembered for all time. You fight in this war.
It's true.
And he does want to be remembered. And he's sparring with, his very straight cousin, Patroclus.
Yeah, his cousin.
Yeah.
His
cousin.
platonic
Yeah, that's what I
cousin.
like about this movie. It has everything. It has, like, all kinds of human love as well. It has, like, familial love. It has romantic love. It has whatever's in between.
It's true. It's true.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting. 'Cause I think, audiences of 2024 have different sensibilities and wants than the audiences of 2004.
Yeah, I wanted more gay.
Yeah.
I wanted more gay between Achilles and Patroclus.
I mean, you want more gay in a post Madeline Miller world.
Yeah, you do.
In a post Song of Achilles world.
You want a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. But, hey, whatever.
Yeah, I want more than like loose implication.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to see it.
It wasn't even really implication. I don't know, because like they are just cousins.
Yeah,
Like,
he could just love him like a cousin.
Yeah.
I think whatever like homosexual like tension exists between them is something that like the viewer,
right,
because
like,
you already kind
puts
of know
onto
the story, right? You're reading into it. I would have actually liked to see more there, but I understand that time constraints. The year in which you make the movie will constrain you to a certain extent. So he goes to his mom, who. This is another interesting aspect of the is it myth? Is it not myth?
Mm-hmm.
So his mom, right, in the original myth is like a sea river nymph, something like that. In this film, she appears to be a normal woman.
Yeah.
But she also is like in a river and she has like some like shell jewelry and stuff. So it's kind of like, could she be?
Yeah,
could she be?
It's interesting, like the way that this uses myth, because like in the first book of the Iliad, like a big plot thing is like Thetis, like Achilles' mom, like supplicating Zeus and like entreating him to like basically create a stalemate in the war between the Greeks and the Trojans, and that doesn't really happen because this movie's working on like a different time scale, but like I think that choice does kind of like it removes that part of the story, but like as we've talked about before, like those elements of like the supernatural, of like the superhuman like feats, like it still comes through in the text itself in a way that like you might as well just make Achilles' mom a normal lady. I don't know, but there is still like leeway there, like you're saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it's sort of left up to interpretation, but of course she gives him the two options that every man has in life. You can stay in your hometown, get married, have kids.
Yeah, whatever.
Maybe your kids remember your name, maybe your grandkids, but eventually you will be forgotten.
Yeah.
You'll just, turn into dust and you'll be no more. Or you can fight in this war where you will most certainly die.
Yeah.
But you will live in infamy forever. Two options.
Well.
I'm still, deciding for myself. So I
Uh-huh.
think this movie is kind of a good education.
Well, I think this podcast is a part of our immortality project.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we're going to
it
live
is.
on.
Our names will be immortalized thanks to this. But of course he's going to go.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
there's just no shot he's
yeah.
staying at home. He's going to go and he's going to fight. And fight he does. He's leading the charge in every battle. I mean, I'm not going to talk about every fight that happens because I would just be talking about that for the rest of the podcast.
That's true. And I will say, we've skipped over action scenes before on this podcast.
Yeah.
But when we do it then, it'll because, like, whatever, we're watching the movie and we're taking notes and we just write down, bad action
people
scene,
fighting.
People fighting. But it's like, in this, there's, like, a sense of scale. And, like, even without, like, the, huge army battles, like, in the, like, person-to-person fights.
Yeah.
You get so much, like, character in those alone where it's, like, I don't know, like, it's able to be moved over, but like it's still like there's just something awesome about
Yeah, there
watching
really
it.
is.
Yeah.
Well, because each of like the sort of heroic figures, like they fight in their own way. It's
Yeah.
like consistent
Yeah.
throughout the movie. Something you don't always see.
And they did take very like clear care in like choreographing that.
Choreographing. I had to think about it.
Choreographing that. Like they planned out a different fighting style for each character. Like Achilles is very like he's like gifted. He can move around.
Yeah, he's quick.
Hector is like more like stable and solid because like he's learned from experience like that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and Ajax just big guy with a massive club.
Ajax
so,
is awesome.
so he fights like you would imagine someone with a massive club would fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool. Yeah, and the sense of scale is also great. I was talking about this while we were watching the movie because I also love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think they're amazing movies, some of the best ever made. I think part of what makes them so good is the number of extras that they use for mundane settings, but also for like battle settings.
Yeah,
so many extras in this movie, and I think the practical effects and like the scale of the extras is so much better than just having like horrible CGI, like a giant CGI monster or something like that.
Well, it sounds like you're hating on Rings of Power, which is the best thing in the Lord of the Rings franchise.
Squeeze me.
So maybe step
Squeeze me there.
Step back a little bit on that.
I didn't think Rings of Power was that bad, honestly.
And that's coming from a real fan.
That's coming from a real fan.
So take that.
But I prefer this. I do prefer having like a lot of well costumed extras fighting and a lot of good practical effects, which we see a lot of. In this fight, and something that we get again is this implication that Achilles is perhaps like more than human. So Hector and some of the other like high-ranking Trojan people, they're riding out once the Greeks take the beach, and Achilles has sacked the Temple of Apollo. They're riding to meet him, and they're riding towards him. They're hundreds of feet away. Achilles gestures, guy next to him, "Give me your spear, give me your spear."
And you're thinking, oh, no shot.
No shot. Absolutely. Just wallops that thing, kills like Tectone or something. A Trojan general snipes him from like hundreds of feet away.
Awesome.
And there's this great moment where you see the Trojan die. Like the impact, right, sends him flying off the horse as he gets impaled in the spear, and you see Hector turn. And just a look of disbelief on his face. But this is the part that I think is really great and interesting. Hector rides forward another 100 feet, and then he throws his spear with incredible accuracy. But Achilles, of course, is quick enough to dodge it. He gets out of the way. But you can see there, right, that's just such a great like bit of foreshadowing about the difference between these two men.
Exactly.
Where they're both like just incredible fighters, right? But later, when Hector is talking about what he saw Achilles do to his wife, instead of being like, oh, I don't know, maybe he's a demigod, he just says, there's no way any man could have made that throw. No man I've seen could have made that throw. So it's just this incredible, kind of interaction between them where it's like, these two like absolutely insane fighters. Of course, they're going to clash at some point in the movie. There are these slight differences between them. And I mean, although he's spared in that moment, so of course the Trojans, they get their asses beat once again at the temple. Briseis, the nephew of King Priam of Troy, who's the cousin of Hector, she's taken captive. And, Achilles has the opportunity to kill Hector. Doesn't kill him. Lets him go.
Right. Yeah, tells him, like, oh, I want everybody to see when I kick your ass.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be a big event.
Uh-huh.
Which is also, it's just great characterization for Achilles. You understand
he's
what he wants.
Just such a dick, and it's amazing.
He's an asshole.
Yeah.
He really is. But he's nice to Briseis.
He's nice to Briseis,
Who
is also
becomes
nice.
his groupie after this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she is. It's really a shame she dedicated her life to being a priestess of Apollo.
Certain things you can't do.
Yeah, right. It's
as part
just
of that.
it's just a bummer.
Yeah.
But that part is cool, is fun. What happens next? Agamemnon takes Briseis, starts feuding with Achilles. So these two men are just kind of beefing throughout the movie, and Achilles refuses to fight in response because he almost gets violent. He almost kills Agamemnon.
I will say, like, this scene is a lot more drawn out in the myth, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell these things that are different between like movie and like myth, but like, I mean, the epic is like so long, and like you have to shorten things, you have to condense things down for a movie to work. But like the scene is a lot more drawn out. Like there's a specific reason that Agamemnon takes Briseis, because like Agamemnon's like trophy wife that he had taken has to be given up as a part of like an offering to Apollo, and Achilles suggests this. So Agamemnon's like, well, okay, if I do this, I can take something from one of you.
Of course, and of course, it's gonna be
Briseis
from Achilles.
And Achilles, he gets so mad that like Athena literally has to come down and be like, okay, come on, chill out.
Well, we have an Athena standard in this movie. And of course, it's Odysseus.
The favorite of Athena.
Delivers an amazing line. Says, he goes up to him as he's about to freak out, right, calming him down. Says, "War is young men dying and old men talking. Ignore the politics."
Yeah. If only.
For now.
For now.
He's not gonna just go apeshit and try to kill Agamemnon, as he probably should. But he lets him go, and he's not fighting anymore. So the next big battle between the Trojans and the Greeks will not take place with Achilles.
Yeah.
But it will be another 1v1 between two men. Paris, in his ignorance, has agreed to fight Menelaus. Not a good idea.
No.
Not a good idea. It's never implied in the film that Paris is a good fighter.
Well, it's implied the opposite.
Yeah, in
actually.
fact, he's just he's so boyish and inexperienced. He probably will die if
well,
he fights.
He's just so good with the bow. What do you mean? He's
so good with the bow. Maybe he'll do something with the bow.
Yeah. No.
Maybe he should have sniped Menelaus from the walls instead of fighting him sword to sword.
Which apparently that's like late Bronze Age dig. Like if you're not good with like a spear or anything and you're just good with the bow, it means you're a coward or something. Yeah.
Which is it's cool, and it's a good bit of characterization for Paris as well, because his whole thing, right, is that he's not very smart about how he's been conducting himself. Let's say.
At one point, like Hector gives him a dressing down. Like, look, you don't know about women because like you have all these like romantic notions. You don't know about war because of the same thing. Like Paris's problem, is like his romantic tendencies.
But there's still like he does feel like very human.
Yeah, exactly.
In this moment, because he's like, well, I love her, so I'm going to fight him anyway. It's like he's going to die for. Well, he says he's going to die for love.
Well,
he's willing to die for love.
Yeah, in the moment, he's willing.
But it's right. He has had no experience with like death, which is something that Hector has experience with, and points out. He's like, hey, you've never seen a man die. You've never killed a man.
It's not glorious or whatever you think it is. Yeah.
He's going to do it anyway, and let's just say, Paris does not win this fight. It doesn't really go his way.
Yeah.
It's kind of protracted. Menelaus just messing with him, throws away his shield. He's just absolutely whamming on him, just swinging, taking big swings. Paris is not winning, gets his leg cut. He is near death. It looks like it's it for him. And then this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because he has like this very human moment where he's near death, right? He's on the ground. Menelaus raises his sword to swing, thrust down, and kill him. And at the last second, while Menelaus' sword is in the air, he cringes away and he starts crawling back towards Hector. And when he gets there, he wraps his arms around Hector's foot, with his head down. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
He's afraid. He's afraid to die.
And like, in the epic, like there's so much more like supernatural, like God shenanigans happening in like the Menelaus Paris like duel. But like when you get like that kind of scene like in the movie, it gets to like the like human heart of this story in a way that like is so effective. And like it, not that like it's better than the like epic or like the supernatural, but like it accomplishes the same thing. Like it's
it's just a great humanist reading of that encounter.
Exactly.
As a younger brother myself, it's like you understand that feeling of helplessness where you're like, he's given up, right? He doesn't want to die. He's afraid, so he goes to Hector to protect him. And of course, Menelaus doesn't care for this. He's willing to strike him down at Hector's feet.
And Agamemnon, he's like, oh, they've broken the treaty. Even before, Paris is just limping away. And
broken the agreement.
Yeah, he's already ready to send the
he's
Greeks.
readying the troops.
Yeah.
The two armies are facing off, hundreds of feet from each other while this 1v1's going on. But, Menelaus is just closing in on Paris, is going to strike him down. But then Hector, who normally a very honorable, upstanding person, makes a decision that I think many of us would make, protects his brother, kills Menelaus. But then you have to remember that Menelaus is himself a brother, is Agamemnon's younger brother. So when he dies, Agamemnon loses it immediately.
And for the whole movie, he's been this opportunistic, political animal. He's not really thinking about the emotions of anything. He's just purely, even when he takes Briseis, he's not doing it because he wants Briseis. He's doing it to bring down Achilles' standing.
Get in his head.
Show him his place in the political hierarchy. But then in this moment, you can see the grief in his eyes in such an effective way, and you think he is human. Like you were saying before, he is this political creature, but underneath all of that,
he's just raw, and it's great because his dialogue is it's very, he has these kind of sarcastic witticisms about war, kind of sarcastic remarks making fun of the situations around him. But then in this moment, he just lets out this guttural scream.
Yeah.
And the Greeks charge forward, and now we're going to have this massive battle. And things are not going well for the Greeks, let's say.
And because there are more Trojans than there are Greeks. Or is the other way around?
There's a lot more Greeks.
Yeah.
But they're within range of the archers in the walls.
That's right.
If you know anything about Bronze Age combat, the archers are going to get you every time.
Yeah.
They're going to get you every time.
Yeah.
So they are just losing, hundreds of men because they're sort of disorderly, just charging into the line of of Trojan shields as the archers gun them down from the walls. And Achilles is backseat commanding. He's watching this happen. Pull back from the walls, you idiot. You know he wants to be fighting, though he can't be in this moment. Another 1v1 happens. Hector also kills Ajax, who just a giant Greek man.
Sad.
Another Greek king.
We like Ajax.
Falls. We liked Ajax, But this sort of establishes Hector's the real deal.
He's nice. He's nice with it.
He's nice with it. He's really good, and we win. We win this round.
Yeah.
If you're Team Trojans, anyway.
We win. Us Trojans.
What can I
Trojan
say?
men.
I'm disclosing my loyalties too early.
Yeah.
But later that night, we had this cool interaction between Briseis and Achilles, where we have Briseis as the pious, I believe in the gods character.
Yeah. Team Apollo.
Team Apollo. And you have Achilles, who is really the Autolycus of this film.
The atheist guy from Hercules. Yeah. Odysseus' grandfather.
That's right.
So,
that's right. Well, luckily he doesn't sound like an atheist redditor in the same way that Autolycus often did.
That was a bad movie.
That was just a really bad movie. Because, the dialogue between them is really amazing because Achilles, he gives this whole speech about how he says, well, the truth is, the gods, they envy men.
Yeah.
Because our lives are short, because we are ephemeral. And I think that is a really interesting point for him to make because his whole project is to achieve immortality for himself through glory.
But that glory can only be achieved through the shortness of life.
Right. What makes it meaningful is the fact that he could die at any minute, right? And that so many men die with their names forgotten, that to make yourself glorious above the rest is it's truly an achievement.
Yeah. So it's
good.
This interesting duality between the engine by which he's going to achieve immortality is through his own mortality. It's so it's crazy.
But a little philosophy from Achilles we didn't expect maybe.
Yeah.
Guy's got a brain after all.
Yeah, she has a line oh, I thought you were a dumb brute. I could have forgiven a dumb brute.
Yeah.
It was funny.
So they're falling in love, of course.
So
to say.
in short, they're falling in love.
In short, Briseis and Achilles are falling in love.
Which, is interesting, but
which is interesting.
Yeah, where's Patroclus during all this?
Where is he? Well, we're seeing him soon enough.
Yeah.
Because Achilles still not fighting until Agamemnon, says please.
Yeah.
And,
that's interesting.
Well, yeah, it seems like he might soon rejoin the fight because he does. He gets Briseis back after Agamemnon gives her up. But that night, they're attacked by the Trojans. They're high on their recent victory. So they attack the Greek camps at the beach. And at dawn, they strike. but they won't be striking
with conventional warfare.
Yeah, they roll some like giant hay bales, some circular hay bales down, catch fire.
Well, yeah.
It's
First, they they fire some fire arrows like into like a trench. You think, oh, what they missed? They're not hitting anybody, and then they
That's
roll
when the balls
things
come
down.
in. That's
When the balls come.
That's when the balls come in. Let me tell you. Thinking about some more balls coming in.
Oh.
Achilles has rejoined the fight.
Yeah.
So in the morning, when they're about to clash, we see Achilles. Achilles is leading his men out of the camp. Yeah, he's back.
Achilles.
Greeks are rallying. Good for us.
Yeah.
Now we're switched sides.
Just a fair weather
I've
the bandwagon.
I like an underdog. What could I say?
Yeah.
There's going to be a fight here, of course, between Hector and Achilles. It just must happen.
It's what we've been waiting for. The movie's over.
Right? They're clashing. They're fighting. Something doesn't really feel right because Hector, from the beginning of the fight, has the upper hand.
Achilles doesn't seem to be doing very well, but he's doing okay.
He's doing okay for himself. He's doing pretty good until
moving quickly.
Throat cut.
Oh
no.
Brad Pitt, no.
It's a pretty grisly death because it's like it's like just a deep enough cut on the throat that he's alive, but he is most certainly going to die. He's choking on his own blood, whatever. Falls down. Hector, something doesn't feel right. Removes the helmet. Oh fuck.
Oh no.
It's
Patroclus impersonating
Achilles, wearing his armor, leading the men into battle.
That's not Brad Pitt. That's Garrett Hedlund.
It's Garrett Hedlund. That's a much twinkier version of Brad Pitt.
Yeah, it is funny because he just does look like twink Brad Pitt.
He does.
Pretty silly.
And you know what? We appreciate that. I think that's what this movie needed. So he's dead. That's really bad. Everyone stops fighting immediately when they realize what happens. Because I don't know how old he's supposed to be in this movie, but in the original, he's pretty young.
He's young, which is another thing that doesn't really get talked about in our modern kind of retellings of this. Yeah, but whatever.
He's like 12 or something in the actual. He's super young.
He's boyish, to be sure.
And now he's dead. Oh, this can't be good. This just can't be good.
Uh-oh.
So now Hector's done a bad
Achilles
thing.
is not going to like this.
Somebody tell Achilles.
Yeah.
Fighting is ended for the day. Both sides return, but Achilles, when he learns of his cousin's death.
Does he take it well? Does he,
I wish I could say he took it well and he understood the context that Hector didn't mean to kill him. No, he's angry. He's very angry. Yeah. And he's going to go find Hector. Yeah. He's rejoining the fight. Briseis begging him not to. You've lost a cousin, don't take mine. He will. Yeah, I mean, that's just, you haven't read the myth, Briseis. I think he will. Blinded by rage, forgets all that stupid bullshit he was talking about before. He's going to go fight. Rides up to the walls of Troy, challenges Hector. Yeah. Hector has to come down and fight. I mean, it's just what a man's got to do. No, it's when a guy's like outside of your house yelling, "Hector! Hector! Hector! Hector!" You gotta get down there. Fuck. Yeah. And it's just this amazing scene where there's just dread amongst the Trojans, right? Yeah. Because when it cuts to Hector putting his armor on, he's in the room with his wife. Everybody's trying to stop him. Right, and you can hear Achilles shouting yelling in the distance. So it's like everyone knows. It's like, oh fuck, and that's their he's best dead. Guy. Like he's going to die. And it is a really sad scene because Hector sort of knows he's probably going to his death here. But he's willing to face it, despite the fact that what he really wants to do is be a husband and a father. Husband and a father. And that is expressed in a better way than just saying, I would like to be a husband and a father. All I want to be is a husband and a father. Thank God he doesn't say that shit, that corny ass shit. My children! Just a good movie. No, but he is just a good father and husband. So it's like, you can see that on screen. Somehow they portray that without him having to yell it. Making it explicit. But he has an amazing fight. He fights his little heart out. Yeah. They go back and forth for a while. Fun fact about this movie. Before the filming of this scene, which, by the way, like no stunts. This is just them. Just them going. Two actors. Before the reason they couldn't film it for a while, Achilles, Brad Pitt tore his Achilles tendon. That's wow. Which is just wow. Pretty funny. Yeah. That's really funny. But yeah. Well, he does a lot of jumping and stuff, so I imagine it'd be pretty hard to fight with the torn Achilles. And because there are no stunt actors now, hitting someone
kind of becomes serious. So like apparently they had a gentleman's agreement that like for each like accidental hit that wasn't like choreographed.
The other one would get a hit in?
The other one would have to pay $50.
Oh, $50?
$50.
Oh,
yeah.
that's funny.
Which is pretty silly.
That's really silly. Well, I wonder how many they got in.
Yeah.
Because the fight looks amazing.
We'll get Brad Pitt on.
Really
We
good.
can
We'll
ask
interview him.
Yeah.
We can ask about that amongst other things.
What's Angelina Jolie like?
Yeah, what was it? Well, are they still married?
I don't know. We can ask about that too.
Yeah, well, that's about easily Googleable information.
So like, are y'all?
So when's your birthday?
Is she available? Or, like,
yeah, she's single or
she's single? I don't know.
What's the deal?
Yeah. Big Tomb Raider fan.
Hey, I mean, that was a movie we could cover.
Tomb Raider.
No, we're not covering Tomb Raider. That's a joke.
No.
There's no argument for Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
There's no argument.
Yeah.
Hector's dead, by the way.
Just talking about Tomb Raider. Yeah, Hector's dead. Yeah.
He puts up a good fight. He dies. He's killed, stabbed through the heart. And will Achilles do the right thing and let the Trojans come collect his body?
Ooh.
Is that A, or
Yeah.
will he B, tie him to the back of his chariot and ride him around the city?
I'm thinking he's
tied
going
to
to
the back of the
B.
chariot.
Yeah.
He does B. And a very sad moment for the Trojans, for King Priam.
Yeah.
His oldest son has died. This
now
isn't
he's
looking good.
Thrice captive about the Troy Wall.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, it makes for like an interesting story beat, but very sad.
Very sad.
Very sad for those emotionally invested. He takes his body back to the Greek camp, and luckily, Priam does get his son's body back, makes an appeal to Achilles. And the only reason I mention this, seemingly less relevant story beat is because it tells us a lot about Priam as like a foil to Agamemnon. This guy who just has like no empathy, really.
Yeah.
No sense of like propriety, right and wrong. Priam is a father.
Yeah.
Like first and foremost. And you can see his kind of like style of kingship is like very paternal. He really cares about his country in the way that he cares about his sons. So he makes an appeal to Achilles, a fearless appeal. Could have snapped that old man's neck easily.
Yeah. And this scene has like captivated like thousands of years of like storytellers.
Yeah.
There's one not recent. I think it was written in like the 2000s or so, or like it was a while ago. It's a book that's like just this scene. And it's like a dramatization of like this interaction between Priam and Achilles. And like, I don't know, just there's so much like narrative potential in this idea of like a king humbling himself to like achieve this very like just human goal of like just grieving his son. Like it's so interesting.
Well, yeah, because now that Achilles has had some time to cool off, Hector did attempt to make a pact with Achilles at the start of their fight that whoever won, they would return the body and give it all the necessary funeral rites. But at that point in time, Achilles delivered one of his better one-liners. There are no pacts between lions and men.
Awesome.
Just, I hate him, but I love him.
Yeah.
Oh, you bastard.
Ransom by David Malouf was the book that I was talking about. 2009. Yeah.
And it is, it's an emotional scene when Priam does get Hector's body back and, brings it into the walls of Troy to have the 7-day funeral games. But we are now in the end game of this movie because conflict is stagnated. So Odysseus, not wanting to have his men fruitlessly thrown against the walls of Troy, he sees one of the guys.
Keep having this war for like 10 years? What's going on here?
That would be crazy.
That'd be crazy.
Anyway, I'm whittling this toy horse for my son.
Yeah, he sees one of his guys.
A wooden horse, you say?
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta like.
Good.
I like that they at least tried to explain how he came up with this idea.
It's pretty funny.
So they make a wooden horse.
But the thing is, like, I feel like that would have felt corny in like another movie.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of like, I mean, Odysseus especially gets so many like.
He does.
Like Han Solo movie-esque moments where it's like things explaining like the origins of something. Like he has a lot of lines where it's like, all I want to do is get back to my wife, because it's like he's gonna go do the Odyssey
gone
after
for
this.
a while.
Which, by the way,
really funny.
If they had made a Sean Bean Odyssey movie,
I would have loved that.
I would have eaten that.
I would have loved that.
I would have eaten that shit up. But like, yeah, it's in this movie, especially like with Sean Bean, like there's so much charisma that you just like don't even think about how corny things that are happening are. And even if it is corny, it's like, oh, it's like funny corny.
Yeah, it is. And at least it's like it's very consistent with his character, where from the very beginning, what he really wants to do is like get home, rule peaceably. The only reason he goes, right, is because he can't afford to have Agamemnon as an enemy. So he's the king of Ithaca, right? Subservient to Agamemnon. So he needs to find some way to end this conflict quickly so more of his people don't die, and he can make it back. And it is, we see Hector in the beginning of the movie whittling like a wooden lion for his son. So I do feel like there's at least some foreshadowing. Yeah. This guy's not just randomly, it's like, well, why is he whittling this horse?
Yeah,
it's
he
like,
invented whittling.
It was a thing people did. They whittle things for their sons.
Yeah, they whittle a little.
They whittle a little whittle.
A whittle.
A whittle whittle. And that was a whittle horse, or a rather large horse.
A big horse, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you know, you can't have all the same kinds of like debate about the horse that are in the original myth because we're running out of time in this film. So very quickly, you know, we have just Paris be like, I don't know about this. And then the other guy's like, no, it's a gift from the gods. We'll take it into the city.
Which is so funny because there's a through line like earlier in the movie. Hector was like advocating against like attacking at night. And then like one of the guys was like, oh, the birds told me that it would be good to do that. And Priam's like, sold. And then
let's do it.
So like there's a through line of like,
there is,
whenever one of the brothers says something like, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea. Like one of the advisors is like, oh, it's a great idea. It's
because Priam he's more pious than either of his sons. There's another moment early on where, you know, Hector says something like to affront the gods, and you know, Priam's like, "You don't talk about the gods that way.
Get their name out of your mouth.
Respect Apollo."
Yeah.
So we kind of know what happens from here. Once the horse makes it inside the city,
will it be good? Oh, it's like a fun gift, you know?
Yeah, maybe it's a fun gift. We're celebrating like it's a fun gift, and then we're gonna,
by the way,
drink heartily.
Apparently, they gave the prop horse to Turkey. Which, if I was like a nation,
interesting.
If I was a nation, I received this gift.
I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take it.
I'm not taking it.
That's crazy.
Unless maybe they expect like Brad Pitt to hop out.
Yeah, right.
Like, hey guys.
Hey. Yeah. Do an advanced screening of the film.
Yeah.
Luckily, nothing like that happens. It's actually very sad because people are happy, they're excited, guard is down.
Yeah.
And then I do like how they show the Greeks coming out of the horse because there's this great shot where it's kind of pulled back and you see the panels of the horse being removed. And it's like, because you can imagine, right, if you're just like a Trojan walking the streets at night, so surreal.
It's absurd.
It's like, what is happening? Like there's something coming out of the horse.
There's men coming out of
There's men coming out of the horse. They kill the guard at the gate, open the gates, and now we're fucked. I mean, it's been foreshadowed a million times. If the Greeks make it inside the walls, it's over.
What does Agamemnon say? He's like, burn the city to the ground.
Yeah, he says something like so fucking maniacal. Burn it all, you know. Yeah, they're going to kill the women and the children as well. No one is safe.
And it's just so... Because, like, Agamemnon never cared about, like, owning the city of Troy.
Yeah.
He just wants to
He just wanted to destroy it. Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Which is, I think, an interesting kind of, like, transition. Because at the beginning of the movie, it seems, like, kind of more political. Like, oh, we have this, like, national rival to Greece that we should probably like reduce or take control of if we can. But by the end of the movie, like he's suffered these military defeats. His brother is dead. He's angry. Like he just wants to destroy the city and kill everyone in it. And he does kill himself, King Priam. A little king on king action. You hate to see it. And everyone kind of gets their comeuppance at this point in the movie because we are at the end of the film. So, you know, Achilles is looking for Briseis, who was taken back to Troy. He just wants to be now maybe a husband and a father. I don't know.
Husband and father.
Some people escape the city through a secret passage.
What's your name, boy?
Aeneas. Aeneas is the name.
Right through here, boy.
You're going to inherit. Take the sword of Troy.
Take the sword of Troy. You've got a bright future ahead of you, kid.
You Aeneas. Something about you I like. If he founds Rome.
He founds Rome.
In a way.
Yeah.
If you didn't know. Yeah. But Paris is also looking for Briseis to take her out. He's got his bow and his arrow. He's ready to go. And let's just say his arrow finds its mark. Achilles does have a good moment with Briseis after Briseis is found not by Achilles first, but by Agamemnon. Stabs him,
kills him.
Right in the neck. He's dead.
Yeah.
Then Achilles finds her, and they have a really nice moment reuniting until Paris...
Yeah, he doesn't really get the memo. He doesn't know what's happening.
He doesn't get the memo.
He doesn't know that Brad Pitt went through like character development and stuff.
Shoots him down. First shot, where does it go? Cling, right through the heel.
Right through the heel. And
Right through the heel.
you know, because he gets him the heel, but he gets up and he like starts like walking towards him and stuff. And then like he keeps getting shot. In like the chest and stuff. But he takes all of those arrows out. And then like he gets shot final time.
Yeah.
Gets on the ground.
What's left is the arrow.
The only thing left is the arrow. So then people see it and they're like, oh, he must have been one shot with the arrow and he died.
See, isn't that so much better than having a character say, oh, well, here's the fake story I made up. You need to make up a better story.
Someone being like, oh, he couldn't have just died from the heel, right? Like, none of us think that.
Come on.
Get
Get fucking real.
Yeah, I don't, like, there's just enough for you to, like, assume what happened.
Yeah.
Without
having to, just, I don't know, be this insufferable dialogue of Hercules 2014.
That movie did a number on us.
Because seeing it, right before we saw this was really like a night and day kind of experience.
Yeah.
Because here's one thing. I understand that a lot of these characters, their ending isn't the same in this movie as it is in the original myth.
Yeah, but like take Agamemnon. Like it's pretty much the same. Like he gets killed by like someone who he assumed he could not get killed by. Like I think it's his wife's lover who kills him in like the myth, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's each character gets the ending that they deserve, which I think is good. Because it's like, well, Paris, kind of a coward. If anyone's going to survive this, it's probably going to be Paris. And it's not explicit whether Briseis and Paris survive after he kills Achilles, but it's implied that they probably do.
Yeah.
Achilles, there was no way he was getting out of this alive.
Well, he was told by his mom. By his witch mom.
He would face his doom.
Yeah.
And he did. And right, Agamemnon, he's blinded by greed and arrogance, is killed by Briseis. And even her, like, this character development starts out as like a pious priestess of Apollo, eventually kills Agamemnon, has this like turn to violence by the end.
It is kind of funny that that's like the stock character development that like a lot of women get in movies like this. Like even like Conan 2011, like that was the main ladies thing. And like all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, like Elizabeth Swann. Yeah. Like, it's kind of funny that it's like, oh, now she's on equal footing with the men.
She's learned to fight and kill.
As all good people should.
As you must.
Yeah.
In the setting. But yeah, it's really great. I like this movie a lot.
Yeah.
I have nothing but good things to say about this movie. I feel like it's very Diney Blunget in certain ways as well. If you think about like what is that movie trying to tell us about revenge and like the efficacy of like the certain ways of living and being.
Yeah, and like just grand scale conflicts like this. This movie comes out.
Yeah.
2004. Right after, like,
some conflict going on.
We're living in a time of conflict as Americans, and like, I think that this movie coming out at this time, it's a very like particular kind of story to be told,
Yeah.
This like opportunistic empire, like all these different, like Agamemnon's troops are like a federal state of a sort, like it's these like disparate kings and nations, and none of them have any like specific beef against Troy. It's just like their strongman leader wants to like
right. Well, that's part of what I love about these character motivations is as the movie progresses and people become entangled with each other, these characters, they seem so trapped by the circumstance of what's happening. Like everyone's response is kind of unavoidable. It's like unavoidably human. It's like, what, you're going to expect him to allow us to like not go after his wife after she's taken by this like young buck in Paris? Like, you ain't gonna let that guy cuck you.
And it's interesting because like the person with the most freedom in this story is kind of Achilles.
Yeah.
Like in that sense, like, oh, whether to fight or not fight, the only person who like has that choice or uses that choice is him.
Yeah.
Whereas like, even then, he is still trapped by his own like wrath and anger. Like everyone's trapped by something.
Yeah.
In a way that like you kind of don't usually see in a like sword and sorcery genre story, because it's all very focused on like mobility and like you're using your strength and like your arm to acquire freedom in this world. In this, like people like the freedom is very distant. People are trapped in these actions, and like I think that that difference does not make this like not sword and sorcery, it makes it kind of shine light on the other things in the genre.
Yeah, I think it really does sort of highlight, like, even if you were to say, well, this can be like considered a foil to certain themes we see in sword and sorcery, that gives it an important place in like defining the genre.
Yeah.
Because it sort of helps us explore the different ways you can write characters and their flaws and their strengths. Because even Achilles,
notably giving them flaws.
Giving them really characterization at all would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You could say they had the benefit of having some like nice source material. It's like already a very good story.
Yeah.
But I think the way it's executed for modern audiences as a movie is like, it's one, good from the perspective of like, it's just a well-made movie. Cinematography is good, production is good, acting is amazing.
Oh yeah.
But it's also just like the elements they chose to include, the way they chose to write it for the screenplay, I think is good.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Oh, I fully agree. Like even, beyond like the words, like so much work when it's like the marshaling of like the army fights, like they bring in like just so many people from like, like different countries, and like they had to like translate to different people. It's like their instructions and stuff. And like because usually in like movies like this, like the stunt actors will be trained with like swords and stuff. Like people want to attack like in the
strike
sword motions. But, like now people have to use like spears and like shields and stuff like that. Like there was a whole new kind of like stunt acting that had to be trained for this movie. And it's fascinating. I don't know.
And it shows. It really does show. And I feel like in terms of like modern themes, I don't know. I'm so happy that it wasn't even a conscious decision to watch Hercules 2014 and then go, well, what's a similar but better movie?
Yeah.
It was honestly kind of like just a pick based on unrelated motivations. But it does everything it does that movie does so much better. Because it's so true. I think especially now that the human experience, it has certain like material or historical realities to it, right? I think that's true. It's like we're living at a time of like increasing secularization, yada yada.
Sure. Whatever.
God is dead. Whatever they're saying on the street now.
And hey, listener, whatever you think about that topic, that's what we also think.
Yeah,
we agree with
we
you.
hold your same opinions.
We hold your same opinions. It's a coincidence. That way,
it's
isn't
just, I guess it's just meant to be that you're subscribing to the podcast.
And downloading it too. You should
and
as
well, yeah.
You should also download it.
Checking out the Instagram.
And checking out the Instagram, like following the Instagram.
Yeah, like sharing.
Sharing to your friends. Sharing to your enemies.
Whoever you can find, really.
I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We don't care.
No, we're open.
We just want the clicks, man.
Yeah. Trying to drive that engagement.
Yeah.
But, to me, it's I think it's just so much more true to say that the human experience is both, right? Like people, whether or not you can say, well, in reality, like what really happened? What's the historical reality?
I prefer this to the legend.
To the legend, blah, 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 blah. But it's like humans in our own lives, we see ourselves as motivated by love and like and passion and strong emotion and hatred and revenge and like these kind of abstract, more idealized experiences of life. They exist. They are real in the human experience.
Achilles, like in the Briseis conversation that we were talking about earlier, like he breaks down those aspects of human life to like the disparate like gods and stuff. Like he talks about Ares, talks about Aphrodite, talks about Apollo. And like, I think what this movie is doing is like personifying, or like, honestly, like depersonifying these gods back into the emotions that they came from. Like it's this very like reflexive thing where like the gods were inspired by these like emotions, these idealized like human experiences. And then this movie is like bringing that back to its original source in an interesting way. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, even if, right, whatever, a character like Briseis seemingly doesn't support war or something like that, that's the Ares' whole deal, right?
You still
and the point, there's some obligatory respect that is owed to this god in the same way that whether or not you're like super keen on war, it's just sort of undeniable. There's like this spectacle and this glory surrounding it that Achilles is obviously interested in and benefits off of, but it's a part of being human. Yeah, that's sort of unavoidable, even if you're like, oh, it's sort of distasteful. It is there. It's owed respect. And it's great, it's great.
I think that is a big part of like the humanist themes, like you've been saying, of this story. Like accepting like all facets of human experience in a way that like it seems like the Hercules movie wanted to do,
Yeah.
but just like didn't. Like it's too.
Yeah, it just didn't.
You can't say that like this is a humanist text and also try to make it like, oh, well, aren't superstitious people stupid? Because like superstition is a part of the human experience, just like anything else. You know, like so like being that like cynical does in a very contrary way like minimize the amount of like humanist power that your story can have.
Yeah.
And maybe that can have larger implications on other things, but you know, I wouldn't I wouldn't be one to say, you know.
Yeah. Who would never? And you know, I think it is nice that because everyone has like this sort of fatal tragic end, it's sort of even left up as an open question. It's like, well, did the gods have the last laugh? Like Achilles chops off Apollo's head at the temple. And then he's riddled with arrows.
Yeah.
And his heel is like, absolutely dunked on. Dies, weak heel. It's just sort of an interesting, you know, swift-foot Achilles, you know, dies in that way.
Yeah, and Agamemnon also. Like, the second they sack Troy, then like, the immediate comeuppance happens.
Yeah, he dies. He's killed by the priestess of Apollo.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like, ooh, like, there's some interesting play there, but more than saying like having a character literally say, "Oh, it doesn't really matter what's true, whatever you prefer."
Believe in yourself, and so on and so forth.
It's like the fact that we can infer these different readings and not have a character say, "Well, here are the options. It's either it's true, it's not true, it's sort of true. You pick which one you like." It's like, well, I would rather just not be told that. And find it out for myself.
Because like I think, you know, what this movie and just good movies generally are conscious of, or is that like stories, like whatever, gods, like emotion, like anything, it's something you commune with, you know, like it can't just like, you know, be this this is like high-handed thing and expect you to like get onto its level. It like has to act upon you, and like you have to act upon it. Like it's a relationship whenever you're watching something and whenever you're engaging with any piece of art, in a way that like movies like Hercules I kind of feel like they don't want to be engaged with, because they're too like, I don't know, like cynical and like meta and like whatever.
Well, yeah, because you maintain a certain distance as the viewer. That you're not encouraged to maintain that kind of distance in a movie like Troy. You're very much so encouraged to lose that sense of self that you have as the viewer, right? Often, and just enter into the world of the story.
And I think that this movie does something very different to like, say like Die Nibelungen, where like I think that is true of both things. Like you engage with both stories, but like in this movie it's very much a conflict between two sides where like there really isn't any like particular coding on like which side is like good.
Who's good and bad guys.
In a way that like, you know, kind of the excesses of like the silent film era, where things are very like, you know, color coded and like what you're supposed to empathize with, like that you're supposed to connect with like a specific kind of character, and even then that kind of falls away in like the second film of the series. But like in Die Nibelungen 1 especially, like you're not supposed to like Hagen Tranja, you know.
No.
This guy.
Yeah, like, the way the character is like costumed and you know everything about him, it's like, oh, evil. Yeah. Evil guy.
But like in this story, like I think it very much benefits from the kinds of like changes in storytelling, empathy, like in the like 100 years since almost.
Yeah.
Like you get humanness in like every facet of the story, that you can connect with both sides of the issue.
Well, yeah, because it seems like, right, maybe like, oh, well, Agamemnon, he's a bad guy. But Paris stole another man's wife. Just ran away with another man's wife.
Exactly.
Could have ended this whole conflict. Didn't.
Yeah.
At no point, right? At no point. Because for him, it's like, oh, well, it's like, I have this deep feeling of love that I'm willing to die for, to fight for. I'm willing to sacrifice other people's lives for this, you know? And it's sort of the same with Agamemnon, where it's like he has these feelings of like greed and like this lust for power that is still a very human emotion, even if it's like, ooh, kind of icky.
Yeah. And I think just the Iliad is such like a powerful story to like tell that kind of narrative with. Like you take, I referenced this at some point, but like Krista Wolf's Cassandra, like it's the story of Cassandra, this like prophetic woman, like priestess of Apollo, who like foresees the war, is trying to like warn people about like how to stop it, how to mitigate Troy from being like destroyed entirely. No one listens to her. That's her curse. But like even then in the story itself, like the idea of like that being like a curse is kind of played around with. Maybe it's just the fact that like politically it would be disadvantageous for them to actually listen to her.
Yeah.
So they just don't listen
So
to her.
they don't. Yeah.
And I think like that kind of narrative is very powerful in like this setting, because like in that story also you don't really empathize with like Troy or Greece. Like, it's these two like whatever political nations, like their own their own reasons to go into war, their own incentives to go into war, in a way that like there are no good guys, bad guys.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the reasons why the story keeps being told, because like it is just kind of conflict that just happens in human history.
Well, my favorite part about the whole thing is like this like meta 3 layers removed commentary about how these characters, right, like they're living to like be remembered through the ages. And it's like 3,200 years ago the story takes place. And then in the year 2004 we're making a movie about it.
Right.
So it's like he did achieve immortality. He did.
He's Brad Pitt now.
Yeah, he's Brad Pitt will forever be known.
And now he's like fan fiction twink who hooks up with Patroclus in Song of Achilles. It's
cool.
He keeps changing.
Well, at the end of the movie, it is kind of like, by some respects, a cheesy monologue that Odysseus gives, and I guarantee the Autolycus ending monologue is a parody of this.
I
guarantee it.
I can imagine that.
When he's talking about the great heroes who like died in this conflict, he's like, let them say I lived in the time of Hector and Achilles.
It's beautiful. Like the ending monologue is beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
it's good.
It's nice.
I think it works.
Because it's playing on that idea of like antiquity. But like throughout this movie, we've seen these people as like people. Like they are human beings.
Humans. Yeah.
But like the speech is very much dealing with like the kind of like epic myth that we've associated them with. So like kind of, I don't know, juxtaposing those two things with each other.
Yeah, it's really interesting to explore the distance between the person and the name, right? Trying to kind of collapse the two. Because it's like, we remember the name Achilles, but it's like, what are we actually? We're reconstructing Achilles in a sense, based on all these other things. Because it's been a while. It's been a while.
Well, it's been 1,000 years since the time of Christ.
And it's been 2,000 years since that.
Yeah. Of
so our Axis Mundi, Jesus Christ.
That's what this podcast is all about. Yeah.
JC.
Jesus Christ. The big J.
That's what we do it for. That's what we do it for.
JC.
I hope everyone enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
It was a goodie.
Hey, and if you're looking for an not adaptation, but like translation of this story, the Iliad by Caroline Alexander, very good. Not by Caroline Alexander.
Well, sure. I mean,
translated by.
That's put in a lot of work. I think I'd say by if I translated a whole ass.
I agree. But it's like a line by line exact translation. It's good. I like it a lot. It maintains a lot of the feeling of the epic. As far as I know, I don't. It's all Greek to me.
So hey, finally, fuck!
How did we
it took us so long.
We never made the joke.
It took us so long. I guess everything was too clear cut. There was nothing.
That's true. Nothing
ambiguous
was Greek to me. Yeah.
In fact, it was English to me. All of it.
It was all English to me. But yeah, I mean, hey, what are we gonna talk about? Maybe some English stuff is going on
next week. You're gonna want to be there for it.
Old English.
Hell yeah, brother.
Beowulf. We're talking about Beowulf. Yeah. And it's timely because I think like today they announced Jeff Bridges is going to be like in Beowulf.
Jeff Bridges
movie
of Surf's Up fame,
of The Big Lebowski fame, lesser known movie.
Sure.
Sure. But Jeff Bridges of Surf's Up is going to be in a Beowulf movie, which is, I guess,
is he playing the wolf?
Well, it's like a Grendel. It's a Grendel movie, which is like strange, but whatever. I guess that this also dates the podcast. But,
well,
we'll see what happens.
Everything is contextual to its time and place.
It's true. Much like Beowulf.
Yeah.
CGI animated, I think.
We love to see it. Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it's probably on Amazon Prime.
It's probably on or YouTube.
Prime.
Or YouTube in 480p. There's always a 480p YouTube version of every film you could possibly want to see.
Yeah.
If you can put up with the low frame rate.
So we'll be talking about 2007's Beowulf.
Yeah, look, we've entered the modern age.
Yeah.
We've entered the modern age.
Yeah, we're
The 21st century.
talking the time of the Anglo-Saxons. Yeah.
Right up to present day. How many years after Christ is this? Or before Christ?
Yeah. So like, when would this have happened? Probably like, I don't know. I don't even know. Like 700. My guess is 700 for like the plot of Beowulf. So yeah, I guess like 700 years after.
Yeah, it's a while after
When
Christ.
did Beowulf? I'm just googling now.
Yeah.
When did Beowulf take place?
We are professionals on this podcast.
Oh, I was 2 centuries off. It's the early 6th century.
Okay, that was close.
Yeah. I was close.
Close.
I was close.
Yeah, so about 500 give or take.
Yeah.
After Christ.
Yeah.
Just to set the stage for everyone.
500 AC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Be there next week for our the 14th episode after Christ.
Yeah.
I'm not actually sure. It might be more than that.
Yeah.
More than that.
That was this also dates the podcast. Jesus did return like the day of the 0th episode of the podcast. So now everything is relative to that.
Is
AD's nuts.
AD's nuts.
Yeah.
Boosh.
Boosh, Jesus. We got his ass. We got his ass.
Got his ass. Thank God in the last minute of the podcast too.
Yeah.
No one will hear.
Yeah.
It won't be remembered.
Anno dominate these nuts.
Yeah. It's all just a D's nuts. Oh. Yeah, BC stands for before C's nuts. Before these nuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's good. That's good.
We try.
Be season these nuts.
Be season these nuts.
Yeah.
And next week.
Bye.
Be there, be square.